and Twitch.
Yep, Twitch
so
is good.
Twitch is good. All right. So if you have any
Okay.
questions, just
People
ask
can
them and
test.
ask them away. All right, and now we'll head into the news. All right, so patch 4.3.0.12266, if you want to be very technical, actually
That's a lot of numbers.
released. I know. Part of that release, we had Khadgar was announced. We included his awesome golden... actually, that's not the golden portrait. That's everybody gets that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you get the animated version. It's not golden bordered, but you get the cool thing that goes with it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Did you guys get him at all, or are you? I know.
I did,
Chloe's
yeah.
kind of
I think it was pretty
free to play.
cool, and it was for a good cause. So I didn't mind paying the $5. A cool little thing. Plus the fact that it's kind of limited and kind of rare is gonna go out of for sale soon. I don't know. Down the line, might be cool to have it
True.
as a
I think it's-
collector.
Some of his audio is pretty cool. I like.
Yeah.
See his intro when he comes in, and what was something else? I forget what it was, but yeah, it's pretty cool. If anything, you'll get to play against him and kind of see all those.
The only thing I was
And-
surprised was that they did another mage hero. Like, why not one of the other heroes? They came up with
Yeah, me too.
Liadrin, like in the World of Warcraft promotion. I thought they would do a new one.
Yeah,
That's
I know
true.
a lot of people were wondering about that. I haven't bought it yet, but I'm going to, even though I don't have any of the other alternate heroes. I haven't even gotten Liadrin yet. But
Yeah, I
I'm
haven't
actually-
either. I need to get
yeah,
my
I
stuff
haven't
together.
played WoW yet enough. But I'm actually giving a presentation on WWF on Thursday in environmental science class. So I'm like, you know what? Might as well shell out the $5. Support the WWF. So yeah, no, I'm gonna get it. I think it's really cool. A little weird that it's the third mage hero, but if it was the limited edition and it was only the second, like a shaman or something, only get half, I think people would be mad about that. So if it's the third mage hero, don't get it because it's limited. It doesn't feel as bad.
Your sound's a little soft, by the way, so I don't know if you can get that louder. Yeah. Now, that being said, which one is your favorite mage hero? Which one do you like the best?
Probably Medivh.
I still like Medivh better, yeah. Same.
I like
think-
Khadgar.
Khadgar. My favorite
Jaina
alternate
still
hero is
wins.
Magni.
Jaina still wins for the epic BM. Like, nothing's more infuriating than hearing her say sorry.
Righty. So also with the patch that came out was the card back. We included in the show notes. Looks pretty cool. They added like this water effect and then this just kind of grasping jowl for the Hearthstone symbol. It's pretty cool. And also just minor things. The Paladin deck recipe was updated. Ilaria will no longer use Lady Liadrin's animation when starting a game. I didn't see any of these, so it really didn't matter to me much. But yeah. Jace, I know that you did think, well, you being the statistician, I guess, of the podcast, I know you liked adding the Vicious Syndicate link. Actually, you want to kind of go into that in detail?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. They sampled about 16,000 games, and they got an average on game time for each class and each class matchup, and that's really cool. And they found that, no surprise, the aggro decks were much faster, taking about 5 minutes, depending on which version of aggro you have. And the longest games, on average, were played when Control Warrior or Control Priest were part of the game, and those averaged about 10 minutes. Now, when you matched a Control versus Control, you were getting up in the upwards of 20 minutes on average. So, I mean, that's not a surprise to anybody, but it is cool to see the numbers, kind of played out and calculated. And, we talked about getting to Legend last week and about how it's a time commitment and how you want to budget your time. This is a perfect tool to kind of give you a great idea of the direction you need to go.
I thought it was really cool looking at some of these statistics, just at the average duration of games of these. Obviously, you can't get the whole picture with this, but it's just interesting seeing when they organize it from the average duration from top to bottom. You got Control Warrior at the top, Dragon Priest, and Control Priest as like the ones that usually last longer. Freeze Mage closely by They usually last, what, 10 minutes and 13 turns, almost 14 turns for a Control Warrior on average. That is a lot. That deck can stay alive for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you got a Face Hunter with an average of 7 turns, almost 8, and 5-minute duration. I mean, this is just interesting to see as from a ladder standpoint. If you're wanting to invest time into maybe like achieving legend or something like that, these are like hard numbers right here that make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, when you get twice as many games with a hunter versus a control warrior, and you're trying to hit legend in short
Yeah,
amount of time, it's definitely easier to go with the hunter. And I don't feel like
exactly.
it's surprising data, but it's the first time we're actually seeing it on paper, so it's actually pretty cool.
Well, this
Um,
the amount of numbers too, like the amount of games is actually quite significant.
yeah, it's a really nice sample size.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Thanks for
I
bringing
think
that.
we'll move on to the next one here. And speaking of HT Championship spring dates being announced, Corey, you want to kind of go a little bit more in detail with these? Have you had a chance to look at it?
I did actually, because I was interested, because I didn't actually know when any of this is going to be, so I'm like, maybe I'll get hired for something. Fingers crossed. But yeah, so it's nice. They laid out all the different seasons. So we found out for sure the spring dates. So spring points are going to be cut off May 1st. So this is the last month for HCT points to get into the spring championship series. So Europe preliminaries are going to be the 13th through the 15th. The next weekend will be the Americas. Looks like Australia and New Zealand is going to be the 21st. And then starting June 11th is going to be the championship series. So 11th and 12th is Europe. 17th, 18th is Asia Pacific. And then 25th and 26th is America's Spring Championship. That's actually, everything's a little bit later than I thought it was going to be. But I guess
Yeah,
it
it's
makes
like
sense.
right at the end of spring, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like going into summer. So then the summer season points cut off August 1st. Prelims are the 12th for Europe, 19th for Americas, September 2nd for Australia and New Zealand. And then the championships are September 17th for Americas, 24th for Europe, and 30th through October 1st or Asia Pacific. So we're already getting really close to BlizzCon with the end of the summer championship series. Last Call Invitational is going to be October 15th and 16th. Last Call Invitational for Europe is 19th and 20th. Asia Pacific is the 21st, 22nd. And then BlizzCon is going to be November 4th and 5th. So, I mean, there's something consistently, like every single month going up until BlizzCon. It's going to be really busy.
Yeah, seems
think
like
that's cool.
they got very organized with this year,
Mhm.
and it seems like they want to keep going forward with this. I imagine that they want to make it a yearly thing that people can look forward to. Like, hey, I'm gonna compete in the summer season or compete in the winter season, put their all into that, and knowing that if they qualify for the seasons, they qualify for BlizzCon, and this is great for the competitive scene having like such an organized kind of like list of events that pro players or any aspiring players can go through and prepare is gonna make the scene so much more strong.
Yeah, I just think it's great to have something going on literally all the time. There's nothing in
Exactly.
July. There's nothing in July, but that's it. Like May, June, and then very first day of August all the way through November.
Exactly.
Like there's something almost every weekend because there's 4 regions. So it is going to be jam packed. Not to
Yeah, there's
mention
gonna be
other
competition
majors
every
in
month.
there. Yeah, other tournament organizers. It's going to be a busy couple of months. Really
I'm
exciting
excited.
though, especially with the new format and the new expansion coming out. Like it's going to be crazy.
It'll be very interesting to see how everything turns out, too. Moving on to the next thing we want to go over and cover on the news. Cinder, actually, you want to cover anything? I guess there was a Tavern Hero venue that was announced for Europe.
Well, not just one venue, all of the venues. Every single Tavern Hero tournament in Europe, the entire European region, has been mapped and dated. And if you're in Europe and you want to go check out the Tavern Hero and maybe sneak your way into the HCT, just like our friend Snail did from south of the border, this is a good chance to do it. And there are a lot of them, Kenny, a lot. And I suspect that North America and Asia Pacific Tavern Hero will be announced pretty soon if they just announced these today.
That's cool. With all these tavern heroes that they're doing, It makes me feel like they're trying to do a huge push to make Hearthstone kind of like what Magic the Gathering is, a game that you go to an establishment and you play against other people, and the tournaments are held face to face rather than online. At least that's what Blizzard seems to be pushing for, because they have not released a tournament client. They expressed that they were working on one, but then backtracked on it and never released it, and instead they're pushing so much of their efforts into this. I think it's kind of cool that they're going this route, honestly, more of a grassroots, hey, let's come and mingle, have what their fireside gathering thing, and like, make friends, play Hearthstone together.
Yeah, and
What
it's
do you
really
guys think?
important that I think it's really important that they added more venues, strictly for the fact that because you have to be at a Tavern Hero venue to compete in the prelims or the championships. I guess just the prelims championships in California. So now there's a location in pretty much every European country. I mean, and several in Russia, several in Germany. There's Greece, Switzerland, Turkey, Sweden. Like it's everywhere.
Yeah,
So
like
pretty much
sanctioned
everybody's
venues.
going to have an opportunity to get into the prelims, to get to a venue in their country. And that's really, really important.
Awesome. I think that covers it for the news. Well, let's go ahead and go straight into the tournament results. Cinder, you want to go ahead and cover over, just take the lead like you normally do.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. So the first one I want to lead with is the One Nation of Gamers feature tournament number 2. Now, we hadn't talked about One Nation of Gamers very much before because most of their preliminary tournaments are open qualifiers. They're walk-on LAN tournaments. They have this really cool big trailer that they drive around to different conventions and events and stuff. And if you're in that location, you can walk into the trailer and sign up for their qualifier tournament. And at the end of all these qualifiers, everybody gets into a finals tournament. But 2 of these tournaments are feature tournaments, and these are invitationals. So they're inviting some of the strong players, the known streamers, and getting them behind the keyboards. For this feature tournament this past weekend, we had on the lineup Dog, Astrogation, Jab, Lead Paint, Zalay, Muzzy, Ryzen, and VLPS. So it's a very strong lineup. At the end of the day, Dog took the final match 4-1 versus Zalay. And I watched this match, and in the final game, in Game 5, Dog was queued up with his Druid, got down to 1 health, stabilized, and managed like a 6 or 7 turn reversal to seal the series. It was amazing.
Wow.
If you want to watch some really high level play, go back and check out that Dog versus Zalay match. That was really something else. Throughout the entire tournament, Dog had a 14-4 game record. Really, really
That's
impressive.
crazy.
In fact, he was playing Rogue again, and he's one of those masterful Rogue players that people talk about. And looking back over the last couple of weeks, we just recently saw him at True Silver 2, the True Silver Championship number 2 at Insomnia 57. He was 7-3 in match play there, and he's currently 9th place in HCT points, and he's not getting really high on ladder like Muzzy and some of these other guys are getting. Mm-hmm. So Dog is just on a tear in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. And guys, I got to be honest with you, if you would have asked me last week who is the strongest Hearthstone player on the planet, I would have said Ty's Molenbeek, no question. Mm-hmm. Ty's has just been he's a monster in tournament play. The last couple of weeks, Dog has arguably been better. I think he's knocking on the door. I'm really hoping to see Dog make it through the HCT and hopefully get to BlizzCon, because I want to see him up against some of the world's greatest.
He's been a top contender for a while, but yeah, he hasn't had like one of those huge tournament wins to really put him on the map. Although he's had a few appearances, I feel. It's also good seeing Zalay back in the scene and like back making it to the finals. I really like the way he plays and the way he thinks about the game. It's kind of cool to see them both at the final, because I know that they're friends. So
friends with a little bit of a rivalry. They keep meeting each other in matches, and Dog has usually gotten the better of Zalay recently.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a big fan of Dog. I feel like before he joined Liquid, he maybe didn't get the recognition that he deserved. But recently, people I think have just been realizing he's a really, really good player with very consistent results.
For sure.
Powder also has been doing really well.
Yes.
That was who I wanted to mention. He won his first tournament and just always been a really consistent player. Finally won a tournament. Really impressed with his results. But yeah, Dog definitely, I think, stepping his game up and right at the perfect time. Like going into the Hearthstone Championship Tour spring season, he's timing it really well.
Yeah, and the one more tournament that he recently did, even though it wasn't a true tournament, the Red Bull Tavern Hero, the deck building thing that they did a couple months ago. In the first 2 rounds with Team Liquid, he went 6-0. He was the only person with a perfect record that day. He's so as time goes on, I think we're going to see Dog with some really impressive match results. And speaking of True Silver Championships number 2, they finally got around to posting the deck lists and bless their souls, because that was 103 participants that went through Swiss, and then once they cut to the qualifier or to the bracket at the top, everybody got to change their decks again. So they had 120 something decks they had to go through. Well, 120 times 3, so 360 something decks to go through. Ooh. So thanks to them for actually posting all those decks. The 2 finalists, Dog and Ness, who we were just talking about, Dog, interestingly, they were the 2 who had the really off-meta deck choices. Most everyone had a very standard deck lineup, even into the finals. That you usually saw Druid, Warlock, Warrior of some variety, right? Dog took Tempo Mage, Malagos Rogue, and Elise Warrior. Ness had a Control Priest, a mid-range Demon Zoo, which everyone was confused about, and mid-range Druid as a cornerstone. So it's interesting to see that both of those guys who had the off-color choices were the guys who ended up getting the furthest.
Yeah, this was sort of Ness's breakout performance. And I do think he played really well. A lot of people said he got kind of lucky. He had some good RNG on his side, especially in that final match. But yeah, I thought he played really well. The Control Priest performed really well for him. So I was impressed by that. And then, of course, anytime you see a Tempo Mage and a Melee Rogue doing well, that's got to be impressive. So.
Yeah, I mean, anytime Dog is piloting Rogue, it's sure to be impressive. So last tournament we're going to touch on here, Copa America qualifier number 3 happened this weekend. As we talked about, though, in previous weeks, Copa America is a LAN tournament. They don't stream many of these matches. So match results are actually still coming in, even though the matches have completed. But as soon as we get those, we will definitely post them, because I know some people are going to be interested in seeing Kuglorin, who's a regular Legend player, regular tournament player, and he's actually in the top 20 on HCT points right now as well. I know that he was in the top 16 bracket, and he was moving ahead, so I'm interested to see how far he goes. But whenever we get those full results, I'll definitely post them. Maybe we'll talk about them next week, but of course by then they'll probably have qualifier number 4 done as well.
Cool. Do you have any other announcements or any upcoming tournaments you want to mention?
Well, there's a couple. We talked about One Nation of Gamers in their series of open walk-on tournaments. Most of these didn't see anything but locals that you may have never heard of, but this weekend they're at PAX East, and that's a big video game convention that gets a lot of foot traffic, and I guarantee you there's going to be some hot players there. So pay attention to One Nation of Gamers, their stream, because you probably see some faces and names you may recognize. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, Copa America qualifier number 4, that'll be this coming weekend. And this one last thing that Team Celestial posted, I'm really interested in. They're calling this the China versus EU Masters. This is the 3rd time they've done this. Now, previously, this series was done with a qualifier and then with a final. This time they decided to go ahead with an invitational since there's no HCT points on the line. But check out these lineups, guys. From China, Lovely Chook, Love CX, Sleepy Shaman, Nightwalk, Peggy, Zhangbo, Xingzi, and Breath. Now, you want to talk about the dream team of Chinese players? That's 6 out of 8 in my book. Mm-hmm. And then from EU, man, sit down if you haven't heard this. Coleto, Ties, Super JJ, Ostkaka, Orange, Stansifka, Life Coach, and Naaman. What a lineup.
That's a star lineup. I think, was it China versus EU Masters 2 that VLPS got his breakout from?
Nobody really knew that name up until then. Now he's really been hitting the tournament scene hard since then.
He won the qualifier, got through, and then they won the Invitational against China. So that was how VLPS got to start. But this is just like, damn, that lineup. It's so good.
And the CEO of the company that hosts Blizzard's all of their content in China, since Blizzard can't themselves deliver the game and all the related content, the CEO of that company has promised a brand new Ferrari to the Chinese player with the best record if China can beat Europe. He did that last time, and he's doing it again. So lots of incentive for the Chinese team.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Why don't I live in China?
Yeah. Hey, Andres, I think you're muted, buddy.
I think you're right. Sorry.
There you go.
I was just saying, if a Ferrari can make them win, like nothing can motivate them, man.
Yeah, if they can't win for a Ferrari, then it just wasn't meant to be.
It just wasn't meant to be.
High stakes. That'll be fun.
Cool. Well, thanks for wrapping up all the tournaments there for us. I did want to mention real quickly here that we did get an iTunes review from Pseudoping, which we do really appreciate.
Yay.
So if you would love to leave a review or something on iTunes or Stitcher, I should be updating Stitcher with some of our new graphics and everything too. Make sure that's up to date. Please do. We would love to hear some feedback, and hopefully you can get us up on the list there. Move up a little.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Pseudo. He's a good friend of mine, and he's been a listener for Hotaholics, and he transferred over now, and then we're over here. Thanks for listening,
Good to have
man.
you. Yeah. All right, so let's go next into our card analysis. All right, so I actually ordered these in order of common to rare, epic, and then legendary. So we'll work our way up. I'll be kind of dashing between you three on your thoughts here. The first one I do want to mention is our 6 mana 5/7 Dark Arakoa. It's a taunt minion, battle cry, give your Cthulhu +3/+3. Cora, let's start with you. What do you think about this card? It's a druid card.
This card's great. Yeah, it's a druid class common. So in Arena, this is going to be insane. 6 mana 5/7 taunt common is phenomenal.
I don't think these cards are going to be in Arena though.
Yeah,
That's right. The
because-
Cthulhu cards are not going to be in Arena.
Supports are going to be.
Sorry,
Dream destroyed.
The dream is
Yeah.
crushed.
Well, it's still good and constructed too. So I think if you're going to see Cthulhu decks, it seems like druids are getting the best Cthulhu support. So that'll be the most likely archetype for Cthulhu decks. Yeah, I mean, it's just really good. Good stat line. Taunt is always really nice, especially in a ramp druid. And +3/+3 to Cthulhu is, I think, the biggest buff we've seen so far. So
I agree
really
with
solid.
that. Yeah, Druid and Warrior are both looking like the strongest classes for Cthulhu so far. With what they've revealed, right? We haven't seen the rest of the classes, but at least this card in specific makes up for the weaknesses of some of the other cards, right? Some of the other cards are kind of vanilla cards with some subpar stats that don't really give you any advantage. And this guy kind of buys you back some of that tempo that some of those other cards might have lost to you.
Mm.
And especially in Druid, where it can be innervated on turn 4 or the like, it's quite good.
And the 7 health is an important breaking point too, because that gets past the biggest removal in the game, which is Fireball. Well, I mean, aside from Pyroblast, but that's not going to come into play. The last one we saw the Mire Keeper, I think, which is the 4 mana that allows you to ramp. So you can go Wild Growth into Mire Keeper into Dark Arakoa on turn 4. So that's pretty good.
Who said druid was going to die?
I almost wonder if the reason why they're making Cthulhu so good in Druid is because combo's going away, so they're like, you know what? At least they'll have a good deck that is not combo.
They'll have some options, yeah.
I bet they're going to have another style anyway, just to play.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about them.
Beast and Cthulhu Druid? That's kind of what it seems like.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to try that. And Druid seems like the best Cthulhu deck that I would like to try. So we'll see. The next card we're going to go over is the 6 mana 5/5 Faceless Summoner. Battle Cry, summon a random 3-cost minion. And this is a mage card. Andres, you want to cover this?
Yeah. It's this 6 mana, 5/5 battle cry. Summon a random 3-cost minion. This card is quite good, actually. I like it a lot. I think for the mana cost, you get a lot of value out of it. We've seen
Mhm.
cards like Doctor Boom that for 7 mana give you 2 separate creatures, and there's nothing better in this game than not putting all of your eggs in the same basket. Splitting the power level of the card into 2 separate creatures sometimes is a good thing. Um, Especially because you're getting a 3-cost minion, so basically it's like paying 8 mana for 6, except that part of the card is random. Does that make sense?
Well, I was going to
Yes, I
mention something.
understand.
Yeah. I was thinking about what I was going to say, so I didn't want to like interrupt you with that.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Basically, you're cheating away 2 mana and exchanging that 2 mana for a little
For a random
randomness in the
effect.
card.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But like the first time you play this and you get King Mukla,
true. Yeah,
like you just kind of win.
yeah, absolutely.
I think the other good thing about this card too is that it's a 5/5. It's kind of outside of that AOE damage range. So sometimes when you have those cards that kind of split its play, it'll fall within the AOE range, but you'll have two there. So you're giving up the chance of losing both and not really gaining any ground on it. So I think this is a good card. I would see
Yeah,
play with this.
Arena All Star for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
What do you think, Cinder?
Yeah, I was
You said
waiting here
everything
from
I was
Cinder.
going to say.
I think we
nothing.
covered it.
All right, Cinder, let's have you go over the 3-mana 2/2, the other mage card here. Twilight Flamecaller. Battle Cry, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions.
Well, it's it's not bad. The stat line is slightly weak, but dealing 1 damage to all enemy minions is a good effect, especially early on in the game. And at turn 3 against an aggro deck, that's a pretty good effect. So I think it's a tech card. It's probably going to see some play depending on the meta. If it ends up being a slower meta, this guy's going to fall out of favor. If it ends up being a fast meta, you're going to see this guy a lot, I think.
I think this guy is pretty nice. I think it's comparable to Arcane Explosion, which for mages is almost good, right? And the reason why it's not good is because once you play it, you're kind of like done with it, and the effect is small. So later in the game, it gets a lot worse. But here, you're pairing it with a creature with at least a 2/2 that can in itself be a threat, and it can trade against other things. And playing this guy on turn 3 to get rid of a bunch of things. Not so much in standard that I can think of examples right now, but if you go into wild, getting rid of a muster or getting rid of like haunted creeper, but plus whatever else is in the board, it's very good on that turn. I like this card and I think it's good. When it first came out, I got so excited because I didn't read it all the way through, and I thought it dealt damage to all minions, 1 damage to all minions. I was like, oh my god, patron mage might be a thing. But then I realized, that it said only enemy minions.
Yeah, I did the same thing. As far as this, I feel like this expansion is going to have a lot of tokens, so this will be something to kind of answer all those wisps. So think about you're gaining 3 mana on that druid card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be I think a lot of use for this card.
I like it. I think it's a solid card. Yeah, it's definitely a little more situational, but solid against the right type of meta.
Yeah, it's 2 cards in 1, which is very valuable. In a control meta, not so much. In an aggressive meta, I think it's really good.
Yeah,
So,
and worth noting that it's a battle cry, right? Not death rattle or anything like that.
Mhm.
So you're guaranteed to get the effect.
Yeah.
Great. All right, Cora, let's talk about the 4-mana 2/4, the last mage one announced here. Demented Frost Caller. After you cast a spell, freeze a random enemy character. What do you think about this one?
I've actually done some thinking about this. So, at first glance, the stat line's weak. It's very conditional, because to get value out of it, you have to play it and cast a spell. And then even then, it doesn't just freeze an enemy minion, it freezes an enemy character. So if you play a spell, and freeze your enemy's hero, and it's like a priest, then you get nothing from it. So if it was just freeze an enemy minion, it might be okay. Because it's freeze an enemy character, the fact that it has a bad stat line, is conditional, and you need a spell to play with it, I don't love it.
Too many ifs.
Yeah, a little bit too much going on.
It feels a little bit like the inverse Bizarro Flamewalker, right? It's
Yeah.
it costs 1 mana more though, which I think is probably going to be one of the things that keeps it out of play. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's worth experimenting with. You can kind of do the same thing where if you load up on cheap spells, you can just freeze the whole board. But at that point, I wonder why you wouldn't just do like Frost Nova. But there may be more cards coming from Age that stack on top of freezing effects, kind of like how Icelands does. It does 4 damage if you're already frozen. So if there's something that does more if you're already frozen, then you might see some potential out of this guy. But for right now, watch and wait, I think.
I actually like this guy. I agree that the 4 mana is a little costly for the stats, and it is kind of like a Flame Waker. And I think the reason why it's so overly costed is because if you're able to play this guy with a couple spells and it freezes 2 or 3 different characters, that is a huge tempo swing on your favor, usually. And it's kind of like a Knife Juggler, like Flame Waker kind of effect. Like you don't know what's gonna hit. And sometimes when you play Flame Waker, like all 4 missiles sometimes go to the player's face, right? They don't hit your enemy's board, and you're like, "What the hell?" You're cursing everyone. You're like, "How did this happen?" So that stuff sometimes happens, but most of the time your Flame Waker is actually quite good, and it will depend on the type of deck that you're playing, right? But I feel like this is a tempo slowdown. But you definitely want to get value out of him soon, as soon as you play it. So I don't know. I'm excited to try him, and I want to see how you can combo with him because he seems quite interesting and annoying for your opponent. Especially if you're playing against Rogue or Warrior, this guy might be quite good.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm kind of gonna look over him for now and maybe see. We'll look into him deeper if I get him played against me in a good way. So let's move on to the next one here. I know Cinder was excited to talk about this one. So Cinder, what do you think about this 3 mana 4/2 Hunter card? Forlorn Stalker, Battle Cry, give all Death Rattle minions in your hand +1/+1.
So the reason why I'm kind of interested in this guy is the same reason that I'm hearing a lot of people dismiss him. Everyone's saying, "Oh, it's the 3 slot for Hunter. You can't get rid of Animal Companion. You can't get rid of the Unleash the Hounds." But that's the thing. He's not meant to replace those. This is the kind of card that's kind of one of the cornerstones of a new archetype, and it's pretty obvious that they're trying to push for a Death Rattle Hunter, and we still haven't seen something like 100 cards out of the set. So we're gonna see more Death Rattles, and playing this guy on 3 as a 4/2, it's a little greedy, right? It's high tempo but very easy to kill. But if you manage to hit 2 cards in your hand, it's going to get some value. The only problem is, at least in the current environment, is if he hits your Savannah Highmane and you play your Savannah Highmane, it's now targetable by the Big Game Hunter. But we have yet to see what happens to the Big Game Hunter come standard. But yeah, no, if you're thinking about this guy, discard everything you're thinking about Hunter. Discard the mid-range Hunter strategy, discard Face Hunter. Think about this in a totally different way because it's a totally different card for a totally different archetype.
Hunter is definitely going to get some changes.
Yeah, I agree with you that they're pushing for Death Rattle, especially with the legendary that Hunter is getting that we're going to talk about later in the show. They're definitely giving us the hint of like, hey, we want a Death Rattle archetype for Hunter.
I think they're making it work. I think especially with the legendary we're going to talk about. I mean, we're losing Web Spinner, we're losing Haunted Creeper in Standard. So they're going to have to make up some ground with some really good Death Rattles, but the support cards are there so far. As long as we actually get the solid Death Rattle minions, then
I think so.
It could work out.
And the thing is, if you're playing a Death Rattle deck, right, like playing a 3-drop that is a 4/2, might not be that much of a problem since all of your board might be very sticky. having a weak little guy in turn 3 might not be like a huge deal, honestly.
It's like playing Tempo BGH.
Yeah, exactly. And what you said about BGH, I want to make a little side note over here. Ben Broad was doing a little stream. We didn't talk about this earlier, but he answered a lot of questions on the stream, and one of the question was, "Hey, what do you think about BGH and Iron Beak Howl?" And surprisingly, he didn't give a straight answer, of course, but he did say that all of the announcements for changes are going to come out with the release of the rest of the cards. But he mentioned something interesting about those, and he did say that he didn't think that BGH nor Iron Beak Howl should belong in the, he mentioned it as the evergreen standard set, right? So maybe there's a little hint that those two cards especially are going to get the treatment, and maybe they're going to be released occasionally during expansions or like a similar version to kind of contain certain cards, but they're not maybe going to be part of the ever-going classic set because they do hinder a lot of creativity.
Yep, and you remember the Tavern Brawl a couple of weeks ago where you had to be this tall to enter the brawl, and it was lots of big minions and giants and stuff. I would bet good money that was an external playtest for a non-BGH environment. How do people come up with creative ways to deal with big minions?
Yeah.
And it did not take long for people to figure it out. So I would not be surprised for Big Game Hunter to change or maybe even go away entirely.
I know Brian Kibler would be really, really happy with that.
Yeah, stay off his dragons,
Dragons need help.
Yeah, he wrote a whole article about how Big Game Hunter ruined the fun.
Kind of did. No, I think we can definitely expect a nerf to Big Game Hunter. Iron Beak Owl, I'm not too sure about. Big Game Hunter seems like it's the more pressing problem, especially for the 4 dragon archetype. But, yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little sidetrack over there, but I think it was worth noting it.
Yeah. As far as what I think it's good that Mad Scientist isn't going to be a part of the standard. But that being said, I think some of these cards that are being announced are going to open up totally new decks to play in the wild that we never see in standard. So
yeah, that is very exciting too.
It'll be fun once you're sick of ladder and there you can go hop into wild and try some decks you want
Have some fun.
When you're like, I
try.
miss my Mad Scientist, I might go back to wild.
Yeah, exactly.
This paladin will never really die.
All right, so let's move on to the next one here. It's a 5-mana 4/4. This one's an epic, and this is a Shadowcaster. Battle cry: choose a friendly minion, add a 1/1 copy to your hand that costs 1. This is a rogue card, right?
Yes.
All right. So, Andres, since you haven't gone this round, why don't you start on it?
I love this card. This is one of those cards that has so many creative uses, and you can make so many fun combos with it. Being able to have 2 of these in your hand with decent stats, right? Like 4/4 for 5 is not anything impressive, but it's not terrible. And at least you pair the body with this incredible effect. And the amount of creatures that you can copy with it, like I just like the possibilities, right? It all depends on what you want to do. Like it makes me think of combo, like the essence of Druid. You just want to create like a fun win condition, fun kind of like style deck. Here you go. This card kind of like enables that sort of thing. And yeah, I imagine him being played with cards that have very significant effects. Maybe like a Thorson or...
See, you're saying this is going to be fun. I'm having Miracle Rogue flashbacks with a 1-mana Gadgets and Auctioneer. This could get bad really fast.
I don't
But it
know.
wouldn't be a
I
spell.
like bad though. Anything I can get crazy and stuff, it's really interesting. And the thing about it is that you do have to finagle a lot of things to make it work, right? It's not a card that is immediately good out of the bat. You still have to play another creature, make it stick on the board for at least 1 turn, because it is 5 cost, right? Unless you're up in like turn 9 or 10, you probably won't be cloning anything worthwhile. But it asks some conditions from you, but if we're able to pull up, I think that the creative uses are really big.
You remember that conversation we were having last week about Mill Rogue and all the different ways to duplicate Cold Light Oracles?
Yeah.
Here's another one.
This is one of them.
And I think, yeah, you're going to be looking for cards that have effects like that, like quirky effects that when you play them again, you don't care about playing them for the stats anymore, but you care about playing them for the effect. Like, imagine even cloning something like a Malagos, and obviously if a Malagos stick on the board for one turn, you're probably won already, but it's the sort
But
of
it's
thing I'm
still
talking
fun.
about. Yeah, it's still very fun. One
Yeah,
Malagos for 1 mana.
I just had a little brainstorm too, because if you Shadowcaster a Cold Light Oracle, it's not another Cold Light, it's a 1/1 mana copy of it. So if you play that and then Shadow Step it, it's a 0 mana Cold Light Oracle in your hand, and you can just play it again.
Nice.
Oh man.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking about
Oh,
cards also
Leroy
like
Jenkins.
I'm thinking about cards like
Leroy.
Conceal to go with it because you're gonna want to have creatures that stick on the board. So you're gonna need maybe things that give it Shroud or just hide it for a second so your opponent can't target it.
Very interesting.
A lot of possibilities.
All right,
But I
let's
like
move on
that.
to the next.
Rogue
Let's
needed
move on to the
something.
next one here. We have the another mage one. How many mage we got this time? All right, it's a 5 mana, 5/4 Servant of Yogg-Saron. It's battle cry. Cast a minion spell that costs 5. A random sorry, I can't read. Cast a random spell that costs 5 or less. Targets chosen randomly. Cora, what do you think about this one?
So it's basically a mini Yogg-Saron. And it can be really good or it can be really bad. So say you play this card and then you cast Nourish and you draw 3 cards. That's really good. If you play this card and you fireball your face, that's really bad. So it's honestly too RNG dependent, I think, for constructed. But you never know.
It's hard to tell, but I haven't gone through like the list of spells that are gonna be less than 5 mana. But I'm willing to bet that at that level, that less than 5 mana, the number of spells that can have negative effects on you are a little less. Like you won't be pyroblasting your face, right, with this guy. And maybe you'll be playing things more like small, cheap removal and a lot of like small, like card draw things like Arcane Intellect, or you might be playing like Arcane Explosions. You might get like Consecrate. A lot of the AoEs that some of the classes have, like you might get like a Holy Nova, which are all kind of good for you. And imagine if you play this guy for 5 mana, get a 5/4 and consecrate your opponent's board. I don't know. That could be pretty powerful. Or just playing this guy and drawing 2 cards from an Arcane Intellect. So I haven't gone through a list of spells, but honestly, this guy can be a huge tempo swing in your favor if things go right.
I mean, and like, who knows? We might even be getting a card that says, you know, next turn you decide what spells you get from Yogg-Saron effects or something like that. Like, there's still so much we don't know about the set.
Also,
So,
I'm wondering if you play this guy, does the spell that this guy casts work with Yogg-Saron later?
Yeah, I was just
Like,
thinking that,
does
but
that
I don't
add to
think
the
you
pile
actually
spell?
use it.
I would think so.
I don't think you
Because
use it. though.
the card says literally cast a random spell, right?
Yeah.
And
It's gonna
Yogg-Saron
depend.
says cast a spell for every spell that has been cast.
It
And then
doesn't
you have
say
to cast.
cast a spell for every spell that's been cast from your hand, does it?
Yeah,
No, I don't
it
think so.
depends on the exact wording of Yogg-Saron.
I don't think
If
they
it says-
go that deep, so it would we have to get like a clarification from like Blizzard's Twitter or something.
All right, that'll be our job for our listeners. Get back to us on that.
Come on Twitch chat, get on it.
Bring your key.
All right. Cinder, you want to say anything about this, or shall we move on to the next one?
No, it's good. I did look at the list of spells, and 5 or less is fairly safe, more safe than Yogg-Saron. But yeah, it's I don't think it's constructed worthy just because constructed players want to be able to target their effects, and when you can't, it's just leaving too much to chance, honestly.
The randomness, I think, is going to keep it away, especially from really competitive events. But for ladder and for funsies, this might be pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. That basically sums it up for me. I agree 100% on that. That's what I was basically going to say. All right, so the next one here is a 4 mana 4/3. It's a priest card, Shifting Shade. Death Rattle, keep a card from your opponent's deck and add it to your hand. Or copy a card from your opponent's deck and add it to your hand. Let's go with Andres this time.
The Shifting Shade. I think it was Said a lot, the priest player from EU, that was talking about this card. and he was super excited about it until he saw the 3 health. As a seasoned priest player, there's nothing more unsatisfying than seeing a priest minion with 3 health. That is like the last thing that you want. But the effect is quite good, right? The body's not terrible. It trades favorably with most of the things in its power level, and you have the chance of getting a really good card. Usually, the cards that get beating opponents deck are, good, and sometimes you'll get like a Poison Blade or I don't know, Holy Nova or something, or I mean, Frost Nova, Ice Lance or something. But for the most part, you might be able to get something good. I don't know. What do you guys think about this guy?
I mean, Priest is already running Thought Steal as a 3 mana card advantage card. So for 4 mana, getting a not awful body and then possibly getting some card advantage, it's not bad. I mean, it may depend on the specific Priest build, but I wouldn't discard this one out of hand. It's not
That
awful.
is true. It does make cards out of thin air, right? It basically adds virtual card advantage to your deck, and priests do tend to go to fatigue a lot of the time. And Thoughtsteal, the drawback from Thoughtsteal is that you lose tempo by not playing anything on the board. With this guy, you get like half a Thoughtsteal plus the minion on the board. So, trade-offs?
The way I look at this card is it's the same stats as Shredder. Instead of a 2-drop, you get a random card from your opponent's deck. So, in a lot of cases, that card could be really good. In most cases, it's going to be about average. You'll get a card that's not great, it's not terrible, maybe just like a solid minion. And in some cases, you're going to get Shield Slam when you're playing Priest, and that's not useful at all, and you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
Like, for every Shield Slam that you get, you're going to get, like, a Tyrion, or...
I was going to say that,
really
in the
good.
control matchup, it could be really good if you copy, like, their Sylvanas or their, like, I don't know, Gramash.
Yeah, so I think this card could be... At its worst, it's terrible, but most of the time, it's going to be decent or very good. So I like this card a lot.
I actually think this card is going to be played, like, competitively.
In a lot of Priest decks.
Yeah.
The only 4-drop they have right now is Auchenai, and Auchenai is
True.
pretty conditional because you have to play it with Circle of Healing usually.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of something you can play on turn 4. They're not going to have Shredder anymore.
Yeah. I think this guy's not meant to stick on the board either. It's just meant to get it in there on turn 4, hopefully trade it favorably, or not favorably, but just trade it even, but get a card advantage from it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't play Priest much, so I know Kevin will, if he's listening to this, he'll be on my case about it. But yeah, Cinder, you want to add anything before we jump into the next one?
No, we're good. Let's go.
All right, let's move on to our legendaries. We have our first one is a 10 mana 12/12 Deathwing Dragon Lord. Death Rattle, put all dragons from your hand into the battlefield. And of course, it's your dragon. Cinder, why don't you start with this one?
Man, what are they doing with this guy? I mean, okay, it's a 10 mana card, so it's going to be super slow. You got to start with that. But the stat line is unmatched. 12/12 is great. So even if you get just that on turn 10, you're not sad. But the Death Rattle, all dragons from your hand into the battlefield. Given that most of the dragons in the set right now rely on battle cries to get extra value, but pulling anything out of your hand on this Death Rattle is going to be great value. And the higher your dragon curve, the stronger that Death Rattle is going to be. You're talking, you could pull out Ysera, which would be amazing. You could pull out your other Deathwing by chance and not have to discard your whole hand and destroy the board. Like, there is some serious power potential in this card. Now, it's silence bait for almost certainly, but we do know that silence may be up against some changes. So, I mean, this guy, Death Rattle, N'Zoth deck, Hunter Death Rattle decks, like, this guy could be really, really good.
Yeah, he's like he's gonna be like the topper in the dragon decks, right?
He's Brian Kibler's dream card.
Brian Kibler revealed it.
Yeah, I know, which is so perfect. This card's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's just a huge threat that brings out more threats once it dies, so it just keeps the pain coming. It's a huge dragon made for huge dragon decks, and it fits nicely. Um, if you want the biggest minion in your dragon deck will probably be this, whatever you play. I think it's good. If you're making a dragon deck, it fits in. I like
Play
it.
this. Bring out Ysera and other Deathwing. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Pretty
guys
good.
hit all the
Don't
main
use them
points
all.
there. The only thing I would mention, I can't wait to see it's golden half.
Ooh, this is
Oh yeah,
gonna
the
be
golden
amazing.
one is probably cool. And I was gonna say it is 10 cost, so it does take a while to play out. But if we know anything about Dragon decks so far, is that they're good at staying alive and they're good at stopping aggression, especially against mid-range decks. So I
Mhm.
think this card actually you guys gotta see play.
I
I
agree.
like it.
All right, let's move on to our Hunter Legendary, which is the 5-mana 6/5. It's a beast. Princess Huhuran, or Huhuran, however you want to say it. Battle Cry, trigger a friendly minion's death rattle effect immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with Cinder on this one.
We've been talking about Death Rattle Hunter all night, and here's the queen of this deck. If it ever comes around, 5-mana 6/5. That's really good. That's a good stat line. That's Savannah Highmane stat line, and Savannah Highmane usually comes down on 6. And the battle cry is super good. Any Death Rattle minion has value wrapped up into it. So being able to trigger it for free is good, and it's free because this card does pass the vanilla test. And some of the Death Rattles that we've seen, like the Ancient Summoner, which is summon a 5/5 on its Death Rattle, that suddenly makes it worth playing, right? Because in this kind of deck, because just the threat of having Huhuran in your hand is going to force your opponent to deal with that 1/1. Like, they're not going to leave it on the board because they don't want to have to suffer Huhuran popping it and then you popping it to get 2 5/5s out of it. They're not going to do that. So any of the new Death Rattles, I think, even stuff that's been ignored, like the Anubarak Sentinel or Anubisath Sentinel, which is Death Rattle. It's 5-mana 4/4 Death Rattle. Give one of your minions +3/+3. I'll definitely take that off of this battle cry. So there's a ton of value wrapped up into this card. I think this is going to be one of the other cornerstones of the Death Rattle Hunter. Super excited for it for sure.
I love
Yeah.
this card. I think this is my favorite card art in the set so far. It just looks so cool. It reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh! With all the bug decks, like Insect Queen, Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth. That's what that reminds me of. So it's like nostalgic, not to mention the stat line is great, and the effect is really solid. Like, it's not broken, because none of the death rattles we've seen are insane so far. But I think it's so good, and people are saying, oh, could just play Stranglethorn Tiger, like, that might just be better. No. This card is going to be really good. Calling it.
She's
card's
already
super
better than a
solid.
Stranglethorn.
Yeah, like stat-wise, it's
So
already
good.
better. And then you get this amazing battle cry. And honestly, it is a little conditional, right? You do have to have something on the board, but it is a death rattle deck, so you will have something on the board more than likely. And yeah, just the continuous threat of those death rattles getting out of control, or just creating a massive board just by playing this one card. If you have one death rattle, right, you can create 4 minions out of it, or
And she's a
end
beast.
up with 4 minions. Yeah, and she's a beast too. So yeah, if we're making a Death Rattle Hunter, this guy's going in it for sure.
Yeah, it'll be fun to play. I'm looking forward to it. This is definitely a legendary I'm looking forward to as compared to the other two from the last set. All right, and I left the last legendary here, the most recent one announced for this little cute guy for Korra. This is a 1-mana 1/1 Shifter Xeris. Each turn this is in your hand, transform it into a random minion.
I love him! He's so cute! Okay, come on. Okay, for one, we don't have a lot of low-cost legendaries. And I know this guy doesn't actually end up being a low-cost legendary most of the time because he's going to be any other minion. But essentially, it's a rolling unstable portal every turn that he's in your hand. You don't get the discount, but it's really cool. And you can just sort of choose when you want to play him. If you get it and it fits on your curve, play it. If you wait later in the game and it rolls a really great late game minion, you've got nothing else to play, awesome. Obviously, very RNG dependent. Might not be the most consistent card, but why not throw it in just because you can?
This guy is so interesting. This guy is another example of like one of those cards that you can only see in Hearthstone. You would never be able to see one of these cards in any other TCG. Um, and it's really cool. Obviously, the randomness is gonna make it. I don't know if people are gonna play a lot of competitive, but honestly, they might. But the sheer flexibility of this card, like not knowing what you're gonna get, people play unstable portals, not knowing what they're gonna get. And with this one, it's kind of like a constant one, and you kind of can wait until the planets kind of align, and you get the good amount of mana they need, and the some games you might get like really, really bad random RNG and not get anything good, but some games you might get the exact thing that you need. And I think the keyword here is flexibility, right? Because when you put cards in your deck, you're always trying to account for the most general situations that you can. You never know what you're gonna run into. But with this guy, it's almost like you might be able to adapt on the moment, like almost adapt your deck to the needs that you need. Whether you get what you need or not is the question, and how often will you get it. But it's a really cool concept of a card, I think.
You can get him off of Dark Peddler.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's so
that's awesome.
fun.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah,
This
that's
guy
true.
is he is a little bit like Unstable Portal, but I'll say not quite, just because there's spell synergy in Mage. But he's kind of whenever you have any matchup, you're going to have a dead card, right? At least one of your cards is going to be not useful in the current matchup.
Mhm.
This guy should, on a long enough curve, on enough turns, will eventually get you something playable. It may not be the exact thing you want to play, but if you have a dead turn, you may as well play it, right? Kind of like Unstable Portal. Whatever you get out of the portal, that's what you're going to play. But this guy kind of feels like, to me, he feels like let's make a deal, the Hearthstone card. So, it's turn 3, you've got a 3-mana card. Do you want to play it, or do you want to wait for turn 5?
No deal,
Yeah.
Howie.
No deal. Well, I was thinking Alan Funt from back in the 70s, but yeah, Howie Mendo works too. But
Yeah,
no,
it's like a minion roulette, pretty much.
yeah, exactly.
Now I was thinking, and this is a what if to probably a trolled in thing, but if he turns you into a Cthulhu, and you've already played Cthulhu cards earlier in the game,
Oh.
I wonder if it even matters, or you'll probably have to play this one first so it doesn't change again. But
It
it's
does
very
work.
interesting.
I'm almost certain, because the way Cthulhu cards work is, since they don't track the status of a card in the deck, they only track its position in the deck.
It's like
They
an-
apply the buff, the Cthulhu buff, to your hero plate, invisibly in the game state. So whenever
That'd be
Cthulhu
cool.
is played, it picks up on the buff on the plate, and then it activates. So yes, if this guy turns into Cthulhu, boom, it works.
Seems like
That's
a fun
pretty cool.
card.
Pretty good.
I definitely want to try this guy out. I think it's really hard to judge this card without playing him. You have to play him to really know. Plus, how do you even play this card? Like, do you mulligan for him almost from turn 1, so you have more chances of getting something that might be useful? Or you kind of just wait for him to be in the late game and wait to get like a useful threat? I don't know.
Very interesting. I think we pretty much covered all these cards here. I'm glad we went over them. Any overall comments?
I'm just super
Alright.
excited about all these cards. They're just crazy.
It was a good week of reveals.
Yeah. This
we're
expansion
only-
has so much creativity in it. I'm super excited to try them out.
And we're only like halfway done too. We've got a lot more to go.
That's
But
Yeah.
you know what? We didn't bounce this in the news, Kenny, and I just thought of it, and we should definitely mention it. On
Sure, go ahead.
April the 22nd, I believe, Ben Brode and Frodan are going to have a stream where they're probably gonna play a show match with the new cards and preview a bunch of cards on stream, kind of like what they did with the Grand Tournament. So we should. If you're interested in seeing a bunch of new reveals all at once, check that out, because that's just around the corner.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I had fun last time watching him. It was fun. I liked how Frodan would actually he didn't want to check out anything before. He wanted to kind of be surprised with the viewers and seeing them. So I hope he does the same thing.
Very honest reactions. And everybody loves Ben Brode. So that'll be a good time.
All right. So we didn't get any emails this week, but definitely go ahead and send in your emails or comments or whatever you'd like to send us to coinconcede@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And let's go ahead and go. We'll wrap up the show here. Seems like it was a pretty creative thinking show. I'm glad we got to review all these cards together. I like how we get to go over this together, and I'm sure our listeners are kind of having their creative juices flowing after talk of some of these cards. So it'll be very interesting. So definitely go check out our Patreon page. We have changed some of the little goals and even what you get with the different type of pledges that you have. I need to go back in and rename them, so look out for what the names are going to be. It'll be, I'll let you go check that out. Yeah. Other than that, again, that's patreon.com/coinconcede. And Corey, you want to go ahead and go through our thanks?
Yeah. So thanks so much to Stefan for letting us use his cover in the beginning of the show for our intro. Check him out on his channel, linked in our show notes, as always. And you can catch our blog posts at coinconcede.com along with the show notes that we reference throughout the show. So make sure you go check those out. We have links to all the news that we talk about and pictures of all the cards that we review. And you can follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. And go ahead and like and share our Facebook page at facebook.com/coinconcede.
All right. And before we get into each of us individually, keep an eye out next week. We're going to have something we'll probably announce on the next show, next Monday. Maybe we'll just announce it then. We're going to finalize that this week. But yeah, let's go ahead and give our information out. Andres, where can people find you when they're not here?
Look for me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. You can also find me sometimes streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/iPlayGames with a Z. And then I have recently also started my own Overwatch podcast with Rob May. We're on our second episode right now. We're trying to focus on learning the game and, learning all the strategies and how to do it, especially since the game's about to come out. We really want to get those people who want to look a little further to learn about the game before they get it. So if you guys are interested in that, check it out. It's called the Obnick Lab, and we air on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and you can find it on iTunes and Stitcher as well.
It's about time you said something about it.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that it launched first and that everything was good before I started promoting it.
Okay. All right, and Cinder, where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter all the time at Cinder Ascendant. If you follow me, send me a message. Yeah, let me know who you are. So let me know how you like in the show. I love to hear from listeners. I've been tweeting back and forth with our guy Dan from last week, who was going for Legend. So we're super responsive. Tweet us anytime, really. Check out my Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/Cinder Ascendant. That's where I do my Heavy Metal Hearthstone show. I just went on a gent kick recently, if you know what that is, and that's a ton of fun. So definitely want to start playing some of that on stream. And I'm going to be doing some nonprofit fundraising really soon. I might announce it on the show in the next week or two. So take a listen to that if you're into good causes. I want to get some help on that.
Sweet. And Cora, how about you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, you guys can always follow me on Twitter at songbird_HS. If you're new to Twitter and you followed because of the show, make sure you shoot me a message, tweet at me. I'll always get back to you guys. And then follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/SageCora. I've been streaming at least twice a week, and I'm hoping to start doing it even more. So hope to see you there.
Great. And everyone can find me at KCCO_gamer on Twitter. Same thing for Twitch. I haven't been sending out too much videos, but I was very interested. Maybe I can find out some way of recording and actually uploading stuff to YouTube. Maybe I'll do that. It'll be easier to do that rather than and do like a highlight reel rather than like a sit down session, just because I get pulled here and there when I do get a chance to play. But yeah, and then if you want to add me on a Battle.net, That's KCCO Gamer number 1752. So, and please let me know who you are so I can leave a note or, kind of keep track there. So I'm confident we're gonna end the show good here. Let's go ahead and say keep calm and chive on, and until then, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Awesome, guys.
Very good. Very
We
good.
made it.
Thank God.